so nice to have you back with us. It is our community, and we have the most interesting neighbors. Today, our guest is a man by the name of Rolland Love. And you're so many things, Rolland. It's hard for me to decide what to say first, but he's an author, first of all, of award-winning short stories, novels, a computer book, Homegrown in the Ozarks, a recipe book, Mountain Meals and Memories. He presents workshops about writing your life story, and above all, he's an Ozarkian and a fisher person. I say fisher persons because there are female fisher persons too. But Rolland was a guide at 12, and he, what I thought was one of the most interesting things, he is a reenactor, and the person that he becomes, all these split personalities are fun, Silas Goodrich. And Silas Goodrich was able to take the fishing trip of a lifetime. And what was that?
He was the expert fisherman with the Lewis and Clark expedition in 1804.
And Meriwether Lewis wrote in his journal that Goodrich was using, and this is a clue for all of you fishermen out there, meat and grasshoppers for bait.
Yes.
Have you ever used either of those?
Yes, and crickets and worms and crawdads.
So it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now you say, well, how did he get associated with Lewis and Clark? He was a private, and he met William Clark when he was serving in the Army in Ohio. And of course, William Clark was a captain, but he and Silas became friends.
Right.
And I think that, what did he catch? He caught some interesting fish.
He caught pretty much every species of fish.
That they didn't know about before.
A lot of them they did not know about. His mainstay for feeding the men on the expedition was to catch catfish. Sometimes it weighed over 100 pounds.
100-pound catfish is a pretty big fellow.
Yes.
Well, you know, I read when I Googled the whole business that Lewis and Clark really didn't think they would need the fish for rations on the trip, but that turned out to be wrong. That this cost them $25.37 on the voyage of discovery, and they brought 125 hooks and some fishing lines, and I don't know what a sportsman's flask is. What's that?
Sportsman's flask probably was holding whiskey.
Whiskey, probably.
Yeah.
Well, this is the fishing pole.
Each day the men, their biggest reward was 4 drams of whiskey.
4 drams of whiskey.
Until they ran out.
This is what you use when you do your reenacting. This is the fishing pole. We're not going to take this out, but you said something about these hooks. What did you tell me about these hooks?
Our blacksmith, Shields, Private Shields, made that hook for me because if you catch a catfish over 100 pounds, the hooks that Lewis brought from Philadelphia would straighten out and you would lose the fish.
Too big a fish for the hook.
Too big a fish.
As I said, they were kind of cheap stuff.
Yes.
But I mean, this is, you know, you got to hold on tight to pull in a 100-pound fish with a pole like this.
Well, normally you pull them in like this with your hands.
Got to be careful you don't cut your hands, though.
Yeah, but these guys were tough.
Yeah, they had to be to survive.
Yeah.
They certainly did. But he, what was it? A cutthroat catfish cutthroat trout?
They caught 4 different species of trout, especially when they got up to the Great Falls area in Montana. His catfish would be flathead, blue cat, and channel cat.
Why is it that you chose Silas Goodrich to talk about? I mean, he's a rather obscure individual. How did you find him, and why did you choose him to be you?
Growing up in the Ozarks, I helped my uncle run a fishing camp, and I guided tourists.
You were
down
12
the
years
river.
old, you said, yes.
So when I was working at Caw Point Park, which is where Lewis and Clark stayed in 1804, the opening for a Silas Goodrich came, and I decided that would be the greatest adventure, it would be Silas. It was one of the most miserable times of my life.
Was it?
It was hard, and the mosquitoes are still so bad.
Really?
And the sun bearing down over 100 degrees every day.
And then you wonder, how did they
Nothing's
do
much
this?
changed.
How did they do this? I mean,
They were 22 years old, mainly, and they, once they enlisted in the Army, they had no choice.
yeah.
If they went back, they were deserters.
I'll tell you.
It was really, really hard.
What about Silas's personality did you find out did you find out anything about him personally?
I read the obituary of Silas, and it said that he was a kind and generous man and helped other people. And I thought, he's just like me.
Well, at least a fisherman, and all fishermen are kind and generous and helpful people.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
Well, you know, it's kind of interesting because people like that I find interesting because, you know, kind of people that are not big in the headlines and well known really have kind of interesting lives and do, because he found several species of fish that they did not know about. So he really contributed to the voyage of discovery.
A lot. Yeah.
He truly did.
While I was on the expedition, I wrote a monologue about my character and about Lewis and Clark. And I've presented that in schools and civic groups and Boy Scouts probably 60 or 70 times in the last 5 years.
Do you find the young people interested?
They love it, partly because they teach Lewis and Clark in 4th and 5th grade many times. And it's just not the same getting it out of a book compared to somebody coming in and telling them what it was like in the real world.
But you know, I also think that people make the event come to life. I mean, if you just say, well, they went up the river and they stopped here and they did this and did that, but the dog and you know, and York and Silas Goodrich and Sacagawea and all of these people, something about them, because they were human beings.
Yeah. One last thing on Silas. I wrote a play along with another gentleman who's a reenactor, and I presented it at the Fringe Festival this year. And it's 1 hour long, and it goes into what things were really like on the expedition. And I'll have it up on my website soon.
Okay.
The whole play, and the website's Ozark Stories.
OzarkStories.com.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I think I could summarize how it was in one word: hard.
Yeah.
Really hard.
It was also hard doing the play.
Oh, I'll bet it was. Well, it's hard when you write because you don't want to leave anything out.
Yeah.
But you know, he died, I think, he was dead by 1825, Silas was. And on his, it said about him, he showed an uncommon acquaintance with all parts of the Holy Scriptures, and he made them his rule of faith and practice, and he closed his mortal life in peace with God and man. Oh, that's nice.
What a character.
Yeah, I do. Well, you know, I have to discuss with you just a little bit about your life in the Ozarks.
Okay.
Because you speak of it so very fondly. And what was it like?
It was exciting in that you got to explore the outdoors. I fished or swam or floated the river every day, and it was fun taking the tourists on floats down the river. And I didn't really have anything laborious to do. So I got to swim and do all these things all the time.
So your job was fun?
The job was really fun.
Well, in one of your stories you wrote, I spent my spare time enjoying the slow pace of the day. Some of my favorite memories are of long hikes and riding horses on back roads, floating spring-fed rivers in a jaunt boat we made by hand out of oak timber cut from a nearby ridge. lying on a bed of pine needles in the woods, watching a red-tailed hawk soar high above a kite without a string, like a kite without a string, exploring caves, diving off limestone bluffs into cool, deep pools of water. Boy, that's the life.
It is.
But you left.
Well, I left because I just wanted to see what was outside of where I lived in a remote area in the Ozarks.
Although it's beautiful, it does isolate you from the world.
It does, yes.
Was it a shock to move? Did you move from there to Johnson County?
I actually moved from there to St. Louis.
Well, that was really a shock.
Yeah. Actually, I moved first from there to Springfield and started in respiratory care school. And then I went to St. Mary's in Kansas City and opened the department there. And then I spent 10 years in St. Louis at Barnes Hospital as a respiratory therapy
And
director.
that's high tension jobs.
That was incredibly
So you made
horrible.
a huge change. When did you start to write?
I started to write after I compiled that big book you've got in your
Oh,
lap.
that's right. We got to talk about this big book.
That big book was created. It's 1,000 pages. It has 3,000 programs in it. And I started putting that together because I ran into Steve Jobs, the Apple guy, at a conference. And I said, what if you could have it? Would you want to help you sell your new computer? This was in '79.
1979?
Yeah. And so he said, nobody knows where to get software. So that's what this thing is. It's the Bible of where to get software.
Well, and I have to show you the inside
much
of it.
it costs.
I opened this thing up and I thought, I don't know what I'm looking at here.
It took 6 months of working hard to get this thing together.
Well, and when I looked at this is 1983. So I said to Rolland, it really isn't practical to use. I mean, nobody needs it today.
It's a collector's item. People pay over $100 for one of the books now if they can find it.
Yes,
But we sold 100,000 copies
100,000 of these books
all over the world.
were sold. I mean, you were right up there with the top writers.
We were truly the ultimate source of where to find what it was somebody owned an Apple needed, which was the software.
I just think that's so interesting. Would it be of any use at all, or is all that software obsolete?
It's all obsolete.
All obsolete. I think that is so interesting.
But when we wrote that book, we went to California. We rented an RV. We loaded as many as those we could get in the RV. On the way back, this psychotic old man abducted us. And
Abducted you?
Held us hostage for 1,000 miles from Las Vegas.
How'd
to
you get rid of him?
Wichita. That's a long story.
Oh.
But when I got home, I wrote this novel,
Oh,
and it's called
Kotax and TNT.
And that really sums it up because the guy had dynamite wired to his leg with a detonator button.
Did you know him? You didn't know him.
No, we didn't know him. He had gotten out of prison.
He just thought you looked like a
He
likely.
scared us a lot.
I bet he did.
Yeah,
1,000
and so-
miles riding with
Yeah.
a nincompoop.
And he would just do all kinds of weird stuff.
Oh.
So once I got rid of the guy, it was like the whole world changed. Like the sky was bluer and the grass was greener, and it was lovely to be back free. And I went home and wrote that novel in 30 days.
And you decided at that point that you could write.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I thought was, I guess I like odd things. Rolland brought a
Skunk.
skunk. And I said, so what? Why did you bring a skunk? And he said, I wrote a book.
Actually, Mary Lane Camberg and I co-authored Homegrown in the Ozarks.
And
She's a
Homegrown in the
fabulous
Ozarks.
writer and is like the queen of cookbooks.
Well, it's really kind of interesting. And on page 189, it
Yeah.
says, skunk surprise.
Yep.
It says, are you seriously reading this recipe? If you're even thinking about eating a skunk, you're hungry enough to cut off your own leg and barbecue it. Well,
Yeah.
it says, in reality, once the scent glands are extracted, which is no easy task, you can cook a skunk following the groundhog or possum recipes in the cookbook. But do you really want to? You need one skunk and one potato, and you can go to it. But I think that I like the book because here's Groundhogs in Cream. Groundhogs, also known as woodchucks, belong to the squirrel family. An adult weighs 6 to 11 pounds, and the older it is, the tougher the meat. Now, we all know that because when my mother used to buy chickens, she'd say, I don't want some old tough hen. And you suggest that you serve with cornbread and string beans. And
There's 140 recipes in that book.
140?
Except for the skunk recipe and the groundhog. The rest are great. They're from like the 30s, 40s, 50s.
When people really cooked.
When they really cooked.
Yeah,
So
well, here's
it's
chicken
a
pot pie.
It's
That
a
looks
fabulous
good.
book. And it was a runner-up for best book in Missouri the year it was published.
I think that's fun. Here's polk salad and eggs.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, all this looks
You
so
better
good.
get off that book. You'll never cover the rest of this material.
Oh, applesauce pecan bread, mom's corn fritters. Boy,
Yeah.
that sounds all good. So was this the second attempt at writing?
No, the
No.
Blue
Hole was?
Blue Hole book.
Well, we need to talk about the Blue Hole because
Yeah.
the Blue Hole is, here we are.
And the cover has changed to a more calmed down cover. But
Is it
it's
still in print?
It is. It's a print book, and also I've got it up as an ebook.
Oh, have you?
On Amazon.
Okay. Well, this is a murder mystery based on a story your grandfather told you.
Yes.
I don't want to give away anything, but can you just say something about it just a little bit?
The story was about finding a body floating in the swimming hole. And the story is about two brothers who go to try and find the old town doctor who is missing. And it becomes the most frightening experience of their life. People who, it's gotten like, between that Blue Hole and a sequel I wrote called River's Edge, which is an ebook now, I've gotten over 200 5-star reviews on those books.
You know, you talk about ebooks. This is a whole new world for publishing books.
Right. It's a wonderful way to go.
Yeah.
You get 70% of the sale price on ebooks. It's easy to get them up, and you don't have to deal with a publisher, no offense.
Well, you don't have to worry about them not being on the shelves. Or how do you market them, though?
You do lots of Twittering, Facebook, go to conferences and promote them.
Roland, you have gone from Lewis and Clark into the 21st century.
Yeah.
I think that's funny.
Yeah.
And that's how you promote these books.
Yeah, and really I've done well with that book because I've gotten lots of really good reviews on it. If you go to Amazon and you type in Blue Hole, there's a whole string of excellent reviews on the book. And then River's Edge, I didn't solve the murder in the Blue Hole and people were upset about it. So I wrote a sequel called River's Edge, and I aged the two boys, 12 and 15, in Blue Hole 50 years and made them grandfathers.
See, I just think that's so interesting.
And they took their grandsons back to where the murder occurred in 1949.
See?
And
But that's a wonderful thing about being a writer. You can just do anything you want to do. That's wonderful.
I loved the writing the River's Edge book because it's a grandfather book.
It's a grandfather book, and that's where we are at this point in our lives.
Right.
But you know, you have another passion, and it's called I'm a Story, and in the website for imastory.com, it's just all one word, I'm a Story. And you give a quote by Mark Twain, and it says, "There was never yet an uninteresting life." So what is I'm a Story?
I have done probably 50 or 60 workshops, most of them at assisted living facilities, and it's to get people interested in writing their life story because it's so important that they do that. I started doing these because Lynn Wild, who's the director of adult education at Johnson County Community College, suggested I do it after he attended a book signing. And he said, this is so important and nobody's really doing this. So anyway, I have a workshop that prompts people, and as I was doing this workshop over the last 5 years, I started compiling the information that I needed to do a website. So I talked to another guy who's a genius programmer type into creating a website that prompts not only adults to write their life story, we've got a lesson plan, and it's set up so that teachers can assign students to interview their parents and grandparents.
See, I just
and write the life story of their elders.
See, that's so...
They don't communicate anymore.
Well, no,
They're
that's right.
They're too busy texting.
Well, that's right. You know we're in trouble when they spell thanks too,
Yeah.
THX.
So we even put hints so that they don't have to think about what to ask next.
But the nice part about it is, yes, you have all the prompts and all the hints and all the everything, but it's free. It doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
And you can fix it so only certain people can see your story. It's not a matter of anybody being able to come in.
Yeah.
And it becomes, I don't know, a real part of a life story. And it's easy. Step one, you create the account. It's free.
Yeah.
And then you log in, and then you fill in a little information and begin clicking away.
Yeah.
And I think it's really, you've gotten some awfully good, these are comments that have come in. And it says, I want to congratulate you on the development of I'm a Story. I've started an episode from my first year in college, and I found the program very user-friendly. Great site, fantastic idea. I'll give it a plug on the Ozarks Mountaineer fan page. See, I think, you know, it's just like one tells another, tells another, tells another. I'm a Story really looks great. I've been told I should write a book entitled Never Give Up. I guess now I'll be able to do it. See, but if you have encouraged one person to write something that they never thought they could do, what a wonderful,
We haven't done much to market the product and have gotten over 500 stories from around the world, and some of them are incredibly interesting.
Well, talk about one or two that you have found that you thought were particularly interesting.
There's a 13-year-old boy who wrote a story that he wants his parents to read 10 years from now. I think that's intriguing.
It is.
So they can't open it
For 10 years.
For 10 years. So he's 13. He's going to be 23 years old. I went in and looked at and see what he wrote. It was really good.
Was it? Well, maybe he has the potential to be a very fine writer. It'd be interesting to know where he is and what he's doing now.
Yeah. I probably shouldn't have said that, but it's too late now.
Yeah. Well, another one?
I've gotten some from foreign countries that are so fabulous, like one gal from France who said that she set her 3-year-old child down at the computer with her, and she started running down the list of hints that we have, and the child started answering the questions, and she started writing the story, so that 10 years from now, it's going to be interesting what the kids said when they were 4 years old.
Oh, I think it's
Yeah.
fantastic. Another person
So-
said, I've already begun to chronicle bits and pieces of my experience
Yeah.
and found that the gratification gained from writing down my expressions was extraordinarily satisfying. That has to
Yeah.
make you feel good. It doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a matter of you're making money. It's a
Yeah.
matter of you're encouraging people to bring out in them what's in there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just think that's,
We are probably within 30 days of releasing an enhanced version. That one's been out a couple years. That's going to be a lot easier to use. It's a lot more powerful. We've taken.
but imastory.com is still okay.
It's still going to be. It
Okay.
is, yeah. The one thing I like about I'm a Story over about anything else is the co-author section. And we've expanded that in the new version. If you wrote a story and you had 5 brothers and sisters and you wanted them to contribute it, and it's about your father or your grandfather, you simply type in their email address and they get a message saying you're writing this story about whoever that person is. Do you want to contribute to the story? So they read.
They have a choice to say yes or no.
They can say yes or no, or they can send something, and you don't have to use it if you don't want to.
Or you can change it any way
You
you
can
want.
change it because now it's your property, and it says that.
I just think that,
So you can be anonymous, you can be co-author, you can be private, or something else that I've forgotten what the last one is. But
I
you
think-
got 4 different options.
I just think that's wonderful. You going to write any more books?
I don't know. I'm gonna promote this I'm a Story thing. What I want to do is find a large company that will market this properly,
Yeah, it's hard to
because
market.
we can't really.
Well, but see, that's
know,
the hard part to market
yeah.
things. It really is.
But
So-
what I think we might find in a large company is that co-author section,
Yeah.
because they could send out information to all their employees and say, we're compiling information on what you like about this company and what we could do to improve this company.
Yeah. See, that would be so interesting.
That's where I think my taker is,
Yeah.
right
I
there.
just think that's wonderful. Well, you keep thinking all the time, Rolland, that's
Yeah.
for sure. And I have to say thank you, and
Okay.
thank you for welcoming Rolland Love, who's a fisherman, who's an author, who's a reenactor, and a really nice man.
Thank
And
you.
a man by the name of K.T. Jong said, it's only when we silence the blaring sounds of our daily existence that we can finally hear the whispers of truth that life reveals to us as it stands knocking on the doorsteps of our hearts. Thank you, Rolland. Thank you. We'll see you soon again, and thank you for being with us today. It's our community, you know.